guys, welcome to my red monochromatic layout. Now this one, I have to be honest, I love lumberjack plaid. If you're a distressed person and you know that color, it's to me it's like a crimson, a claret sort of color. That's the color. I actually had that color on my wedding dress, believe it or not. And I love that color. I'm not a fan of like fire engine red, but I love the deep reds, you know, the deep maroon, where did I get that from? Maroon color. And that made red actually surprisingly difficult for me, because I actually don't normally lean towards papers that are red or have a lot of red in them. So I struggled with the paper. I ended up pulling out a 6x6 paper pad, and it's called, so where I got these from, it's the Echo Park Paper Co. 6x6 paper pad, and it's called a Gingerbread Christmas. I'm not sure if you can still get that. I only bought it, did I buy it last year or the year before? I can't remember. I think it was I bought it 2021, maybe? I'm not sure. But that's where I got my red papers from. That's when I realised I really needed to take this down a mixed media route, because I just don't have a lot of red. So I thought, okay, don't panic. See where it takes us. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, Karen, red on its own, on a layout, in a splatter situation, or in a, you know, mixed media, it can look like blood. I agree. 100%. I agree. But if you've been around for 5 minutes, you will know that I always say, one, it's only paper. It's not rocket science. You're not trying to save world hunger. You are literally, it's just a piece of paper, and if it doesn't work, it's a piece of paper. So for me, I decided that I would pull out one of my stencils. This is a stencil I got from Kmart a while ago, and it was a 12x12 length. I've actually cut the stencils up because they're quite flimsy, being so long. But what I decided to do was pull out I haven't even got my paper in front of me telling me what I even used. Hang on a minute, let me fix that up. Right. So I was using the Crafters Workshop texture paste. It's the light and fluffy text modeling paste, and I love it because it's in the title. It's light and it's fluffy. So you actually, it doesn't add a lot of weight to your page, which is fantastic. I love that about it. It also, you can color it any color you want. This particular, what I ended up doing here, now in my distress watercolor pencils, you don't have lumberjack plaid, so you have candy apple, and you have barn door, and you have fired brick. So I went down the path and I sort of went, okay, I'll mix a little bit of what did I mix together? Candied apple and barn door. And I mix that with my texture paste, or my modeling paste. And then I put it on the page just to get some hearts on there, right? So now, watch how I do this. This is how you create a page without it looking like blood. And you have to trust the process. The one thing that I am really big on is trust the process. And if you think it's not working, just take a couple more steps. Just keep going, and just a couple more, be really brave, and just take a couple more steps, and you may end up just hating the layout. Like, let's be honest, that's a real thing. You can keep going and it doesn't matter. You can keep putting lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. You know, like, you can do that. But what I really found with this particular layout and with reds, I'm using 3 different shades of what I perceive to be reds, which is your lumberjack plaid, your aged mahogany, and fired brick. The reason I went that way, they're still red. The aged mahogany, if you put it with browns, it'll sort of flip to a browner tone. If you're putting it with reds, it kind of pulls out the redder, more earthy side of it. So all I'm doing is the packaging technique, but what I'm doing is I scrunched up my piece of plastic. So I scrunched it right up. I added a little bit of heat to it to sort of make it a bit more sort of brittle. And it's just a piece of packaging. It's nothing fancy. And you can see how I've got kind of crinkles in it. Now that allows me to, what that actually does is when you put it in the liquid, it doesn't go on like a big blob and you don't get big splotches. You get more of a fine spatter look. That's what you get with it. So as you can see, as I'm adding this, I'm just adding little bit by little bit, and notice that I'm drying between each coat. So yes, I do have transparent gesso on my page, okay? So that I like the Finnabair Art Basics clear gesso. The reason I like the clear gesso is because I find when I use white gesso, it dilutes the color as the color dries. It sort of sucks some of the brightness out of the color, and I love bright colors, whether they're reds like this, whether they're, you know, I mean, as I said, candy apple, but when you're adding bright colors to a layout, you want them to stay bright and vibrant. You don't want to dilute them. That's why I prefer clear gesso over white gesso. I also like clear because you can put it on black cardstock. You can put it on white cardstock. You don't actually have to have two products. You're getting bang for buck. You can put clear gesso over pattern paper. You can still see the pattern through it. Like I personally feel that it's a more versatile product, and that way you will end up using all of your product rather than having two products sort of half used, if that makes sense. So that way I can sort of go, well, if it's like 15, 20 bucks for the thing of gesso, you know you're going to use it because that you're going to use that on every single layout that you plan to do mixed media on. You can use it on everything. So that's my reason behind it. Now, I will say that I have spoken to Cass at Crazy Craft Obsession, and she has informed me that she can get the Finnabair Art Basics gesso, the clear gesso, and I believe she's going to try and get some in. And so if you're looking for some, I know it's a bit hard to get your hands on at the moment. Now, when I use it, I'm using an old packaging, so mine is in a tube, which I have to say, it's difficult because the hole is so big and you don't even squeeze it. You literally just drag it across the page and it just flows out. So I prefer a tub. That's just me. So, okay. So this is where I'm giving this, oh, hang on. Where am I going here? I'm lost. What am I doing? Oh, this is my title. I'm like, when did I use just plain texture paste? So what I decided to do was put the hearts over the top of my title to create texture, and then I removed the outside piece and the center pieces. Make sure you do that while the texture paste is still soft. See, there you go. You can see it nice and it's got lovely little hearts on it. So then I'll come in and color over the top. Now, the reason I stopped on my background for the minute is because when you're creating lots and lots of little spatter like that, you kind of, I personally, I become a little cross-eyed and I sort of go, hang on a minute, do I need more, or am I just doing this for the process? Like, really, do I need more? So I decided to move on to my title, and I'm only very gently putting, this is Lumberjack Plaid that I'm putting on here. I love this color. Oh, Tim Holtz, man, did he knock it out of the park with that color? I love it. It's beautiful. It's dark. It's bold. I love it. But if you use it in with a light hand, you can see the texture from the American Crafts white textured cardstock, because that's what I cut my titles out of. It's the one thing, it's my go-to because I always have success with it with my Cricut and it cuts perfectly every time. So for me, Now I'm adding this to my offset, which is, I think I did 0.83. I'm not sure. Yeah, 0.83 or 0.9 something. So I like to add an offset to my titles when I'm adding them to a mixed media background, because that allows the title to hold its own on the page. You can, sorry, I can just hear Gizmo. He's under the table and it's like he's pacing backwards and forwards. Giz, what are you doing, mate? Oh, I see the problem. Lexi's got in his bed. They have their own beds under my desk, and he wants his bed, so he's tapping his paws to try and get her out, and she is one stubborn chihuahua. She is not going to move for nobody. So I'm just running around the edges of, I don't always do this, but it is something that I really do like, adding the colour around the border. I really like that. Now, trust the process. Some things I do just don't work. For example, white paint. I thought this would go over the top of these beautifully and give me some white accents. And as you can see, it did absolutely nothing. So, but as I say to you guys all the time, I leave in the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I just fast forward through. I speed everything up is what I do. So if you're new to my channel, this is how I usually do my layouts, because I like everybody to realize that mistakes happen. We can cover them up. We can cut them out. We can do all sorts of things. And with the magic of editing, sometimes you can just make it look like you're perfect. And guess what? No one's perfect. No one, not one person that does this style of craft is perfect. So I leave it in so you know that I'm not perfect. So what I'm making here is I pulled out my mica powder and I pulled out my gum arabic. Now this is the secret to getting your mica powders to stay on your page. So if you, like myself, if you like shine and shimmer, I purchased a 36 or something set of mica powders, and I bought a little tiny tub of powdered gum arabic, and you saw how much I used then. I just did one scoop, one tiny, it's a 1/36 of a tablespoon. That's how tiny my little tiny scoops are. Now these little itty bitty scoops, you use so very little of all your product. Honestly, it goes forever. And by mixing it with the gum arabic, that's essentially your glue. So you just add a bit of water and it works. Now I'm coming in with some black. Originally, when I started my monochromatic layouts, I was under the impression that you had to have every single thing that color. I have been reliably informed by all my subscribers and by other people playing along that black and white are neutral, and it's perfectly fine to add some black or some white to your layout. So that is what I did there by adding that little bit of black. You can't see it at this point that it really helps everything pop, but it really does. Stick with me. It's just a little bit longer and you will see this just all come together. It looks really good. So, well, I'm really happy with it. You let me know if you think I pulled it off, or do you think it's too busy? Do you think it's not enough? Do you think it's, I don't know. You let me know what you think. So at this point, I have gone around the edge of my titles with the lumberjack plaid. As you can see, it didn't pop. See what happens when I put black around the edge of it? Totally pops. Now, this is my rule. I haven't heard other people talk about this rule, but this is my personal rule for what is good to my eye. Now, what is good to my eye is if I add black to a layout. For example, they're black and white photos. I've added a black border, so that's 2. Then I need one more bit of black something on the page, whether that is splatters, whether that is going around the edge of the title. I always find if I'm adding black, or if I'm adding a new color, if I do it in threes, it gives you that sort of aha moment where you go, ha, that's what it is. That's her secret. That's what, and it's not a secret. I'm telling you, it's out there. Do it. Give it a crack. It works. Whether it's white, whether you do a white border and you've got a colored pattern paper, and then you use white pen and you photo mat with white, it makes it all come together. It really does. It's fantastic. So that is my little secret. And now, excuse me. Sorry, it's first thing in the morning and I stayed up really late last night doing a layout for you guys for today. So this one I did this layout before I did the other one. I don't know why I did that, but anyway. So I've gone around with some Posca paint pens, and the hearts to me at the moment they're there. I can see they're there. I like that they're there and they're sort of sporadic. They're not just one giant line. Now, this is where I went, I know what I needed to do. And I knew it when I was doing it, but I'd already put half of my letters down. I needed to go around the actual letters with maybe the black soot ink. That probably would have helped. So then I proceeded to go around everything with my black Posca paint pen. I did speed it up. I did chop a chunk there because I actually went out and did something. I had a delivery, and I came back and forgot to turn the camera back on, and that it dawned on me like at the S on the last part. So can you see how much that just makes it pop now, having that extra black line? This is what I talk about when I say add a bit of pen work. It's a little bit of line work and it just helps everything come together. Now, by adding this extra black on top of it, it's still monochromatic. It's still all reds, okay? But you've got your white, which is obviously your neutral, and you've got your black, which is your neutral. By going around and highlighting the red bits with a little bit of a black line, it allows them to pop off the page and it allows them to come forward, because it kind of creates a shadow sort of by having that line around it. So give it a go. It genuinely does work. The only thing I'm going to say is make sure your texture paste is dry as a bone. You're not going to drag your Posca paint pen through wet oxide ink or through wet texture paste, because if you do, guess what? You're going to have to go and buy a new pen because it kills it. How do I know this? Because I've done it. So just trust me on it. Just make sure everything's really dry first. And this is pretty much my layout, guys. So I am now going to do my shameless plug, because I'm having a giveaway for my 1,500 subscribers. So once I reach that point, I'm going to announce the giveaway and what it is, and it is for everybody. So if you have anybody that has not subscribed and you know they watch my channel, tell them that they have to subscribe. It is free. And that way you get notified whenever I put up a new video, which is usually every single day. So, except Sundays. Some Sundays I have off. So, can you see how the little hearts pop with the line around it? And see, when I zoom in, it doesn't look like blood. It does not look like blood. It literally, had I used candy apple, it may have. But because I went with the darker and it's tiny little specks, it works. Thanks for watching, guys. I will chat to you again soon. Bye for now.